I want to start with something embarrassing. About 8 months ago, maybe 9, I'm not great with timelines. I forgot to buy coffee on a Sunday night. Just completely spaced it. Woke up Monday, nothing in the house, and by 11 a.m., I had this headache that genuinely scared me, like I was lying on my office floor with the lights off. I texted my wife from the next room because I thought something was actually wrong. She brought me coffee and rolled her eyes a little, and within like 20 minutes, I felt completely normal. And I just sat with that for a while. Because that's not normal. I drink this stuff every single day, and I'd never once asked myself what it was actually doing to me. So I quit. 30 days, tracked how I felt in my notes app, and went down a pretty deep rabbit hole of reading stuff I probably should have looked at years ago. Some of it I understood, some of it I only kinda understood. Here's what I came away with. The first 12 hours, nothing bad yet, then something bad. The morning I quit, I felt fine for longer than I expected. I thought I'd be struggling immediately, but it was fine. I drank a bunch of tea, did my thing. By late afternoon, though, something was off. Hard to describe, not tired exactly, more like flat. Like the lights had dimmed slightly. Here's the thing I didn't really understand before I looked into it. Caffeine doesn't actually give you energy. It's more like it blocks the signal that tells you that you're tired. There's a chemical called adenosine that builds up while you're awake, and when it attaches to certain receptors in your brain, you feel sleepy. Caffeine basically squats in those same spots, so adenosine can't get in. I'm probably explaining this imperfectly, but that's roughly it. The annoying part is your brain notices the blockage and creates more receptors to compensate. So when the caffeine finally wears off, you've got this bigger-than-normal network for adenosine to flood all at once. That's the crash. It's not you being tired and lazy. It's your body's own chemistry hitting harder than it normally would. Also, and this one surprised me, caffeine apparently makes your adrenal glands release adrenaline. So some of what feels like energy from coffee is actually just mild stress. Your heart beats faster, some people get jittery. I always thought I didn't get jittery, but looking back, I think I just got used to it. The headache. By evening, yeah. Headache, dull, right behind my eyes. Not migraine level, but definitely there and annoying. From what I read, caffeine constricts blood vessels, tightens them up. When you stop, they relax and open back up, and the blood rushing back in creates pressure changes. So the headache is basically your vascular system returning to normal, which is a weird way to think about pain. Like it's technically a sign of healing? I took ibuprofen, drank probably too much water, went to bed at 9 p.m. Was mostly okay by morning. Days 2 and 3, this is where it got bad. Okay, I'll be honest, I was kind of a nightmare to be around. Not angry, not sad, just foggy and irritable in this low-grade way that I couldn't explain to anyone. Writing emails felt effortful. I snapped at my wife over something dumb. I don't even remember what. Everything had this slight resistance to it. I think part of this is caffeine doing something with dopamine, the reward and motivation stuff. Not dramatically, not like a drug, but it nudges things in a direction your brain gets used to over time. Take it away, and things feel quieter than normal. My motivation circuitry was just recalibrating, I guess. There's also something I kept reading about with cortisol. Apparently, if you drink coffee regularly, especially first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, it keeps cortisol, your stress hormone, elevated more than it should be. And chronically elevated cortisol does this frustrating thing where it tells your liver to break down muscle and produce glucose, which then triggers insulin, which shuts off fat burning and pushes stuff into storage. particularly around your organs, which is the worst place to store it. I don't fully understand all the mechanisms here, but I kept seeing references to something called the cortisol steal. Basically, your body uses the same building blocks for cortisol and for things like testosterone. And if cortisol stays high, it gets priority and other hormones get shorted. By day 3, apparently, this stuff starts to shift. I didn't feel it yet, but supposedly it was happening. Day 7, something physical changed. End of week 1. Headaches gone. Mood somewhat back to normal, or at least I stopped being visibly unpleasant. The thing I noticed was physical, and I wasn't expecting it. My stomach looked less puffy. Not dramatically, just less inflated than usual. I hadn't changed what I was eating, same exercise routine, nothing different. But I'd had this low-level bloat for years that I'd just accepted as how my body was shaped, and it had quietly gone down. I think this connects to the cortisol and insulin stuff. Visceral fat, the deep stuff around your organs, is apparently really sensitive to cortisol. It responds to stress by holding on and expanding. When the cortisol spikes settle down, your body stops gripping those reserves so hard. It's subtle, but after a week it was noticeable enough that I mentioned it to my wife, who looked appropriately skeptical. Day 14. The sleep thing. This is the part 1 wish someone had told me about earlier. Caffeine has a half-life of something like 6 hours. So a coffee at noon still has a real amount of caffeine in your system at midnight. It doesn't necessarily stop you from falling asleep. I fell asleep fine most nights, but it apparently messes with the deeper stages of sleep. The stages that actually matter. I'd read before that your brain clears waste during sleep, but I didn't understand the specifics until now. There's this system, the glymphatic system, which I'm almost certainly mispronouncing in my head, where your brain actually shrinks slightly during deep sleep, which lets fluid flow through and flush out metabolic byproducts. One of the proteins cleared this way is beta amyloid, which is the stuff associated with Alzheimer's. Caffeine, especially later in the day, degrades how well this cleaning process works. By week 2, I was getting sleep that felt genuinely different. I was tracking it with a monitor and the numbers had shifted, but more than that, I just woke up feeling rested in a way I'd kind of forgotten was possible. My blood pressure also dropped. I didn't realize it had been elevated. Apparently, there's something called nocturnal dipping, where your blood pressure is supposed to fall overnight so your heart and kidneys can rest, and chronically stimulated nervous systems suppress this. Mine had been suppressed for who knows how long. By week 2, it wasn't anymore. Day 21, the weird nutrient absorption thing. This one is niche, but it ended up being more relevant to me than I expected. Coffee has compounds, tannins, I think, that bind to certain minerals in your digestive tract and carry them out before your body can absorb them. Iron, magnesium, some B vitamins. So you can be eating fine and still running low on things because coffee is literally escorting them out. B1 specifically, I looked this up because I'd been having restless legs for years. This antsy burning sensation at night, and apparently B1 is involved in how your body burns glucose, and without enough of it, you can get lactic acid buildup that causes exactly that. I also had weirdly vivid, chaotic dreams most nights. By day 21, the restless leg thing was basically gone. The dreams had calmed down. I don't know for certain that this was the cause, but the timing was hard to ignore. Day 30. What normal actually feels like. I don't have a dramatic conclusion. I just had steady energy. No spike in the morning, no crash at 2 p.m., no reaching for something to get through the afternoon. I woke up and felt awake. That sounds boring, but it was kind of remarkable after years of managing ups and downs without realizing that's what I was doing. I've had coffee since. I like it. I'll probably keep having it occasionally. But I've been thinking of my afternoon crashes and foggy mornings and bad sleep as just how I was. Turns out a lot of it was the coffee. Not all of it, maybe, but a lot. If you want to try it, don't quit cold turkey, I'd say.
What seemed to work for other people, I didn't do this myself, but I wish I had, is swapping in a little more decaf each day over 2 weeks. Less physical shock. Drink water first thing in the morning, before anything else.
A big glass. You lose more water overnight than you'd think, and mild dehydration makes the morning fog a lot worse.
Go outside early if you can. Even 10 minutes of daylight in the morning does something real for waking up your brain without the adrenal hit of caffeine. And if you always crash after lunch and reach for coffee, try a short walk instead. Something about moving your muscles after eating pulls glucose out of your blood more efficiently and skips the crash. I was genuinely annoyed at how well this worked. 30 days is the real timeline from what I read. Not a week, not 2. That's how long it takes for the receptor density and cortisol levels and sleep architecture to actually reset. It's not a fun month. But the other side of it felt like running on different hardware.